Today I'd like to continue our journey through the book of Joshua and take a look at chapter 9 of that book. In chapter 9, we see now the continuing battles that are going on for the Israelites to gain a foothold in the Promised Land. At this point, they've conquered Jericho, they've conquered Ai, and alliance is now formed against the Israelites. The people are seeing that, wow, they're starting to gain some traction here. They're getting some lands. We better be careful with this group. So different groups get together to form an alliance against the Israelites. Among the groups are the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. So all of these people now, they're saying, we've got to do something about the Israelites because they might start to overrun some of our cities and our land too. So they make a decision. They decide, we will attack Joshua and the Israelites. We won't wait for them to come to our land. We're going to go to them. We're going to attack them. We're going to settle scores with them, and we're going to make sure that we prevail over them so that they don't take our lands. Makes sense. So the Gibeonites hear about this, and they decide to trick the Israelites. They have heard how well the Israelites are doing. So they say, well, maybe we can trick them and get on their good side. So they want to make them think that they've come a long way. So they use old sacks. They used cracked wineskins. They wear old sandals and very shabby garments. And they bring dry and crumbly bread with them. So they're trying to give them the impression, well, we've come a long way, and try to take some mercy on us, some pity on us. Gibeon is 5 miles to the northwest of Jerusalem. It is one of the cities that later on was of the tribe of Benjamin, and it was a Levitical city. So they asked to be servants because they claimed to be afraid of the God of the Israelites. They have heard of all the mighty deeds that God did for them in Egypt and in the desert. They say, well, your God is amazing. We're no match for your God. Can we just be your servants? Help you. So Joshua made an alliance with them, made an agreement with them. But he learned later that they had lied to him. However, the protocol in that time was if you made an agreement, if you shook your hand, made an agreement, said, I'm giving my word, you're giving your word, you had to keep the agreement. Even if later on there were some details about the people that were a little bit, shady as the Gibeonites. So Joshua agreed he would spare them because he had made that agreement. 3 days after the agreement was signed, Joshua learned that they had lied to him and that they had not come from a far distance but were close by in Canaan. The people were mad at them, but the princes told the people that they had made an oath to the Lord, and in the oath they said they would not harm them. They sort of calmed the people down because the people were used to making oaths and realized that, well, we made an oath, we made an agreement, we're going to keep the agreement. The Gibeonites, according to the agreement, would be hewers of the wood and the drawers of the water. That would be their function. These were proverbial terms for the lowest social class in the Israelite community, so they were really way down the scale as far as social class. The Gibeonites told Joshua that they acted like they did because they were afraid, which you can understand. The Israelites had been winning victories, so it made sense. It seemed that the Gibeonites belonged to a much larger ethnic group called the Hivites, who were among the group that was forming an alliance against the Israelites. But at this point, they would be servants of the Israelites, so they would be protected by the Israelites. This is what biblical scholars refer to as an etiological story. Etiological stories are stories that we find in the Bible a lot of times that try to explain certain events, certain circumstances that happen to people, and they try to give some background on it. Since the Gibeonites did serve as slaves and servants to the Israelites. This little ruse that they pull would explain it. And so it would make it easy for people to understand, well, this is why the Gibeonites were not really formally part of the Israelites. They're from a different ethnic group, are one with us in terms of we've accepted them into our community. In chapter 10, we see now a different story happening. Adonizedek, who is the king of Jerusalem, forms an alliance with Hoham, who is the king of Hebron, Piram, the king of Jarmuth, Japhia, who is the king of Lachish, and Debir, who is the king of Eglon. And according to that alliance that they formed, they would help Adonizedek defeat the Israelites. So these kings get together and they say, well, the Israelites are here, they're a threat. Let's get together and let's help Adonizedek, who is the king of Jerusalem. Let's help him defeat the Israelites. Because again, it would be down to our benefit because they might be coming our way soon, so let's defeat them. First, they attack the Gibeonites. The Gibeonites, of course, they're in alliance with Joshua. They asked for Joshua's help. Joshua came and he made an all-night march to help them. Joshua won a great victory. God helped by sending large hailstorms. More died from the hailstorms than the Israelites killed by the sword. So there was this kind of divine intervention, at least this physical sign, this hailstorm that the Israelites interpreted as a divine intervention. They were trying to fight. Hailstorm came. Hailstorm killed a lot of the people that they were fighting against. Beautiful, wonderful. This is great. And this is something that they look at and say, well, this happened. God intervened in the situation. Joshua prayed then for the sun to stand still while the nation took vengeance. And we have this strange incident of the sun standing still. And people say, well, what's this all about? I mean, this is a physical impossibility. How did this happen? And the idea probably is that the hailstorm or some darkness would cause the sun to be blocked out. So it would be similar to, of course, to the sun standing still. So this physical occurrence helped the Israelites. And so it would refer to a period of darkness that lasted for 24 hours, and it confused the Amorite kings. And they didn't know what was happening, and of course they got all confused. Then you have the hail to deal with, and it makes, of course, the battle easier for Joshua. The book of Joshua then mentions a book called the Book of Jashar. It's probably a lost book, like the Book of the Wars of the Lord that was mentioned in Numbers 21:14. So these other books are referenced to, but books that probably were lost over time. The 5 kings who were captured were placed in a cave, and it was sealed in that cave at Makkedah. And after the victory, Joshua killed them, and he hanged them on 5 trees until evening. They were taken down at sunset, and they were placed in the same cave, which was again closed over with large rocks. And the tradition was you would never leave the bodies up at sunset. Joshua then conquered many towns in southern Canaan. He killed all the kings and all the inhabitants. So what are we seeing? We're seeing Joshua being very successful, and we're seeing the Israelites ascribing that success to their relationship with God.